Welcome to Phonogenics 101, a Riotboy production hosted by Jeremy Gloff. The podcast where people who love music discuss albums track by track. Please hit subscribe, and if you'd like to support this podcast, patreon.com/Jeremy Gloff or Venmo @Jeremy Gloff. And now, on to the music. Four, three, two, one. Welcome to Phonogenics 101, Season 2. We are here to delve into the discography of an artist that we have not talked about before, but we're going to start tonight with the one and only Demita Jo, Janet Jackson. Tonight we're going to be discussing her first two albums, Janet Jackson and Dream Street. On Phonogenics 101, just to review, we already went through all of Madonna's albums, Stevie Nicks, Joni Mitchell, who the fuck else? Someone else.
Prince,
yeah. Prince.
I gotta jump on the Prince one.
We just did that. My Prince episodes are the lowest rated, I think, because it's like 8. When Apollonia has a Prince podcast, like no one wants to listen to mine. When Brenda and Susan are on the fucking Apollonia podcast, no one cares what I have to say about musicology. But anyway, we have a couple returning panel members and a couple new friends here. So I'm going to have everyone introduce themselves and talk about their history with Janet. I'll start with Jeff X, who I've known since 2009.
Yes. Well, I am Jeff X, and I am a huge Janet stan. Of course, got introduced to her through TV and American Bandstand, and but I didn't have her first two albums initially when they first came out. I just remember hearing some of the songs on American Bandstand, and loved her on Fame and different strokes. And then after that, everything changed when Control came out, and that changed our lives. And I think all of you have seen clips of my home videos of me performing. So what have you done for me lately? When I first came out, my mom got me the single, and then the rest was history. And I was like, Michael who? Like Madonna who? Like I forgot about everybody. Prince who? I forgot about all of them. It was all about Janet from there on. And it just she just took over, and that was my girl. And obviously next month we will be doing the Control album track by track. So I look forward to that.
Oh my God, me too. All right, next. The one person, no matter how bad I thought the Madonna song was on the last podcast, this guy'd be like, bitch, I like that one. So we David.
Hi, I'm David from Miami. I've been a Janet fan forever. I think I've been a Janet fan longer than I've been a Madonna stan, because I remember as a kid watching her on Good Times and of course on Different Strokes. Charlene was that bitch. Don't get it twisted. And of course I saw her in Fame. And yes, just like Jeff, Control came out and it was done. I was like, it was such a great time. I had Madonna, I had Whitney, I had Janet. I didn't need any more after that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next, a new person to Phonogenics 101. We're so happy to have you. Jeff.
What's up, everyone? Well, Jeff, the other Jeff in the room, right? From Orlando. Me and Janet have history for a while. So I was introduced to Janet when she did a backflip in a movie theater. That to me was an iconic move. I was too young to like Michael Jackson's Thriller because it was scary, it was creepy. But Janet was just amazing. I forgot about her for a while. You know, you go through your years until That's the Way Love Goes. That Janet album was seal the deal for me, man. And it's been a love-hate relationship with her. And I'll say love-hate because there's two albums that I just don't like. But yeah, I absolutely love Janet. I love everything she stands for. I'm glad she's back, and I can't wait to see her tomorrow.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Some of our panel here is going to see Janet tomorrow live in Orlando. I should have gone.
Yeah, we're going to do that.
And I hope you do join us for the albums you don't like, because I'd love to hear what you think of them. And I wonder if they're the albums that I also don't like. Okay, and last but not least, the person with the best room in the background, Louis.
Hey, shout out to Jeff X for like inviting me and sending me the link and saying join bitch 2 minutes before I joined. Louis, he they pronouns. I was actually just in Orlando for the day. We got stuck there because of the Fort Lauderdale storm, and then we spent a couple of days in that storm in Fort Lauderdale. So Florida is not my favorite state right now. But I imagine that's what a lot of people would say. Um, I grew up, I'm a Gen Xer, so like the Janet family was a dynasty. So like I loved all the Jacksons, right? Definitely not to the same extent I loved Janet, but like I liked LaToya songs when I was a kid. I liked Reedy. I liked Jermaine. Like they were just like their 80s output, especially like in 1984, when I can remember the earliest of some of my musical consuming. The Jacksons were like part of the zeitgeist in 1984. And I think that's when I saw Janet Jackson's Dream Street and was immediately struck by it, right? She's not doing any fantastic choreography, right? If her career stopped there, no one would believe that she could dance, right? But there was just something about her in that red suit, besides the fact that I wanted to wear it, that was just stunning, right? Like she exuded this very like superstardom that was just waiting for the right material that would come along, some years later. But yeah, like I was a Reby fan before I was a Janet fan, but like most folks here, that would quickly turn with the release of Control.
Awesome. So just a couple of housekeeping things. I'll so we don't all talk over each other. I'll kind of call on everybody when we go through each song. I'm getting a little bit of feedback, so if everyone could keep themselves on mute and just unmute when you talk, then make it easier for the listeners out there. And then thanks to my Patreon subscribers and the subscribers on YouTube for tuning in with us bitches here. All right. So my name's Jeremy Gloff. I'm from Tampa, Florida. And I remember being in my parents' house in 1986 and fucking Janet Jackson. I loved What Have You Done For Me Lately? And I loved Nasty. But then, like, I think the fourth single was Control. And something about that just captured my imagination. I learned all the fucking dance moves. I was dancing along the TV. I think Jeff X has heard the story. Something about Janet really just, I became obsessed with her. And like Jeff said, it was like Madonna, who, of course, we always went back to Madonna also. But there's just a little period when Janet was my everything. And she brought something to the table that no one had brought for me before. And I remember I got the Control album. I loved every song. I learned all the dance moves, and I cannot wait to go to the fucking middle school dance to fucking one of her songs and show all my classmates how awesome I was because I knew all the Janet moves. So I went to the middle school dance. They played Nasty, and I fucking danced. I knew all the moves. Everyone watched me. And that was on a Friday night. When I went back to school on Monday, everyone started calling me a faggot. And it never ended for the whole rest of my high school career or like middle school. Like that's the day my life changed. And you just never go back to that kid you were that just wanted to learn dance moves. So like, Janet Jackson was also a big part of my story because I went from like a music fan to a survivor in a way. So you know what? I slept with half those people. They called me a faggot, first of all. Second of all, I see how they look on their Facebook, and I know I look better these days at 40 fucking 8 or 7 or however old I am. But anyway, that's how I came into Janet Jackson. I didn't find these. I didn't even really know. I knew she had a couple first albums, but I never found them until years later. I don't even think I got Dream Street until I moved to Florida and Amazon, because you never found the Dream Street CD in the store. So when I moved to Florida in '98, that's when Amazon came along and you could order CDs. So I ordered Dream Street, and I think it's always interesting when like people bust through on their third album. So before we go into Janet Jackson, can you guys think of any other third? Like I think of Alanis Morissette. Jagged Little Pill was actually her third album. She had like a couple albums before that no one talks about. So who are some other artists like that? I always think that's interesting. I think of Alanis, Janet's one of them. Cyndi Lauper had Blue Angel before she had her
I'm gonna throw it out there, and I'm gonna say Britney Spears.
Oh, did she have a couple things before the breakthrough?
personally, to me, her best album was In the Zone. That was her third record.
Oh, okay.
That's true. Didn't Katy Perry have some like Christian albums?
Oh, she did. Katie Hudson.
Okay. And
She
then when she came out with Pop, she was the third album, I think,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. And
Even
you know what?
Lana Del Rey had a couple things before Born to Die.
True. Even though she was a mega star, I will have to say Madonna too. Because Madonna, first album was really good. Second album, she exploded, but to me, it's True Blue that like made her a bona fide crossover star and proved all the naysayers wrong. Because prior to True Blue, she had more hate and resistance from the general public outside of her fans.
I would even say that Prince's first two albums are kind of like the first two Janet albums, kind of like fun and a little fluffy. And then like Control and Dirty Mind are kind of like where they kind of showed they brought the cards on the table.
Yeah.
All right, so I will admit I don't know these albums front to back. So I may need to rely on, and I did listen to them both. And we're just going to take it track by track, song by song. And before we do that, let's go through around the circle. I'll call on everybody if anyone knew these albums before. So, David, what's your history with these two albums? Did you know them, or is this the first time you listened to them?
I knew them, but I never went back to them. I knew them because I was like, you know what? I got to know these. If I'm going to be a fan of hers, I need to know them. Like this past week has been so good because I was like, damn, these songs were like, I'm also putting myself in a time warp. I'm trying to put myself back to when I was 6, when these albums came out, what type of music was out at the time, what the genre. So I was like, this is some good shit.
All right, Jeff X, what's your history with these albums? Did you know them, or did you just revisit them? Like, what's your history?
I knew Young Love and Don't Mess Up This Good Thing. Because I had seen her performing them on TV. I think it was Don't Mess Up This Good Thing. I know Young Love for sure. She was on American Bandstand with that. She had like the fur boot with like the earring. Like she had like these black fur boots. Like they were like fur. Kind of like Spiral from X-Men. I know Jeffrey gets that reference. So, but instead of white, they were black. And that was the only really song or two that I knew. I didn't get the albums. I got the first album in like 99, 2000 is when I first got that album. And then Dream Street I got years later. So I was already in Florida myself. So I didn't really like get into them until my late teens or like until like my early 20s.
You know what I forgot to mention is I think, I got Dream Street off Amazon, but the first album, remember when they started selling used CDs in the record store? And you're like, oh my, I can get the CDs cheaper. I think the first Janet album was like $4.99 and a used CD bin, like when used CDs were a new thing. So that's when I picked up that album. Okay. Jeff. Okay, we have Jeff X. What should I say? Jeff 2 or Jeffrey? Jeffrey. Okay, Jeff and Jeffrey. Jeffrey.
You can go either one. So I actually, it's a weird, interesting way. I was watching BET years ago when I was a kid when they used to show music videos back in the day. And Dream Street came on, and I remember being like, what is this? And it wasn't popping for me, but when I ended up, remember, was it Columbia House? Columbia House used to sell you, send you these CDs, so he did some illegal stuff there, but I ended up getting both of them. It wasn't until my cousin came over and she knew she was part of the Young Love Nation, and she was like, that was like a bop back in the day. And I was like, really? But Young Love was not my favorite song on the album. Mine was The Magic Is Working. I think there's something so unique about that track that I'm surprised it never became a single, or maybe it did become a single. But I was able to get both records over Columbia House, and I fairly listened to him, but I wasn't a huge fan of him.
It was interesting because when we talked about this Janet season, we were like, should we even do the first rounds? But I feel like we have to. It's part of her story and part of her history. So,
Jeff, I'm going to add one thing. I want to add one thing. The first time I did see the Dream Street video was in the late '90s. When VH1 would play they had like a segment where they would play like old school videos. Like in the late '90s, they had like a segment. I forgot what it was called, but I remember that's the first time I laid eyes on the video of Dream Street, and I saw the outfit that Louis was talking about. You know, the red and purple leather gloves and outfit. That was pretty cute.
Yeah, I do like that. You know what? I never saw that video until David put it in our group chat. I'm embarrassed to say, but I was like, "What is this? That kind of looks like Janet," because it's a remix of the album version, right? Doesn't it? Isn't it a different version?
I remember it because it was on Fame.
Oh,
and it's her first video. It was taken right off of Fame. So when she was introduced as a character, that was the theme song that she came in with.
shit. All right, Louis, what's your history with these couple albums here?
I'm saying, yeah, I watched Fame as a kid and do remember it as an episode. So I don't think I knew there was an album. I also was too young to buy albums. I didn't buy music for the first time until 1988. But it was in 1989, I think late 89, that this Puerto Rican boy named Randy, got another story about him, but this is not the podcast to tell that.
I mean, you're welcome to. Never stopped us before.
Mentioned that his brother had a Janet Jackson cassette. And I thought Control was where the story began. And he was like, no, it's her first album. And I was like, what? And he brought it over, and I remember studying it, right? Because again, this is 1989. And, you know, before the internet. So like it is, I was studying it like it was, you know, the last Oracle, right? Like trying to take it all in because he wasn't going to lend it to me. Right? So I had to take it in to memorize it. But he did copy it on cassette for me. And my demand, because my love for Janet Jackson was so strong with Rhythm Nation, that, you know, having access to like more Janet stuff was like, yeah, so I loved it from beginning to end. Yeah, it did sound quite dated in 1989, but something still held up, right? I guess as we go from track to track, but like I loved it no matter what. And that was my intro to the first album. I wouldn't discover Dream Street. I knew that there was an album, but I had no interest in Dream Street. I wasn't rushing to buy her.
It's fine. You weren't the only one.
You know, I remember when I got Dream Street in like 2000 or whatever. I'm like, oh my God, it's so good. But I didn't think that when I listened to it yesterday. But we'll get to that in a little while. So I don't think these songs, I don't think there's tons to talk about. This probably won't be some of those damn Joni Mitchell podcasts I have went down in legend because they were like 6 hours talking about one album. I don't see us talking about Janet Jackson's first two albums for even in who knows how long. But some of the later albums, I'm gonna have a lot to say about Velvet Rope. Okay, since they're new to the podcast, my two favorite Janet albums, this might be controversial, but Velvet Rope and Unbreakable. I think I loved Unbreakable.
A lot of people like Unbreakable.
Oh, it was deep. All right.
I agree.
So now let's dive in to Janet Jackson's debut album. It was released in 1982. This is when her father, now I don't know a lot about the history, so if anyone knows, just jump in. Her dad was still her manager, right? Joe Jackson. He picked out all the songs, right? Like she didn't have much creative control on these albums, right? Which is why she moved over to Jam and Lewis on that third album. So listening to the album, though, my impressions of the whole album, there's a lot of joy in this first album. I thought there was some really good bops. Some of the music reminded me of like Tina Marie's most upbeat songs. I was feeling a little like Lady T vibes in some of the music, and I was there for it. And also, the classic Janet Jackson voice is there. Like right from the first song. Some of the songs gave me that same feel that like All For You gives you. Like those Janet songs that just really make you feel good. And that's how I felt a lot of this first album was. I don't know. Did anyone else have any impressions of the album when you re-listen to it? Before we're going to the track by track? Just feel free to jump in if anyone has any thoughts.
It was very Evelyn Champagne King for me.
Okay.
Mhm.
That type of R&B, which I live for. I don't have a like Sky, like those female R&B. They were like, okay, let's market her as the female Michael Jackson, because they painted her. She has a performance on Solid Gold where she's literally wearing Michael Jackson's Thriller outfit, but female versions. So I love early 80s R&B. So this was right up my alley. And I was like, these are some bops. I really, really like this album.
I agree with that. Yeah, very like Evelyn Champagne King, Melba Moore
Yep.
type stuff. Lady T, like you said. I mean, we'll get into the details of each track, but yeah, I got that vibe, like that early '80s funky vibe. You know, that it's like upbeat, funky R&B, but with a lot of trumpets. Like there was always a lot of trumpets to it, you know, which was pretty popular at that time. And yeah, I definitely feel that.
So 82 was very much a disco R&B. You know, you weren't so embedded in disco, and they were kind of creating that whole new sound for R&B. And I think if you look at a lot of the people who's writing on that album, you have Angela Winbush is on there. You have the Silvers, who made Boogie Fever back in the '70s. Those were people that actually helped produce it. So it does have a very as crazy as the time. And I was born in '82, so I don't know a lot about the sound. I know the history of it. It was kind of like that little rebellion sound where it was cool enough to listen to it with your parents, but it was cool enough to bop it in the street. If that makes sense.
It's interesting because R&B, I feel like the first album came out in 82, and then the second one came out in 84, and R&B really transitioned from organic instruments to synthesizers. Because if you look at the early 80s Pointer Sisters albums, like Special Things in Black and White, they have that very organic, like soulful sound, kind of like the first Janet album did. Then when you get to Breakout and Contact from like 84, they were a lot like Dream Street. So I think all of R&B kind of made that transition to the more drum machines and synthesizers between 82 and 84.
It's what was popular, because I remember Donna Summers was making her comeback with Finger on the Trigger.
Oh yeah.
And that is the sound. That is that sound. Like this was like Shaka Khan and Rufus, Ain't Nobody. Those were that was the type of R&B that was hit.
I know it would be a very long series, but I really someday want to go through every fucking Donna Summer album because she's in my top 5. And I'm talking like All Systems Go, Mistaken Identity. Like we have to do every album.
Oh my god,
Louis, do you have anything to add before we go into the track by track?
No, I agree with a lot. I think it's boogie, right? Kind of like that boogie and R&B. It's still disco influence, like it's an echo of disco. So yeah, I'm just waiting to go into track by track.
I'm gonna make a hot take here, but I was never much of a Michael fan. I think I like the first Janet Jackson album better than Thriller. I do. I'm just not a Michael Jackson fan.
I know you're not.
I don't hate. It's not about anything. Just like it just never got into him. I would definitely take "Say You Do" over a Billie Jean any day. So anyway, let's go into the track by track. So the album opens with "Say You Do," and they stretch out that little jam over 6 fucking minutes.
Oh, good.
And you know what? I was driving. This is like my 47-year-old self. I was driving to work. I stopped at the McDonald's drive-thru, had a steak bagel, and I was listening to fucking "Say You Do" in my parking spot, eating my bagel. And it was put me in such a good mood.
A bop and a half. Like, oh my God. I remember the Solid Gold performance. That was everything. I'm like, that is such a great song. Like, what happened? Who was not marketing her? Because this was unacceptable. Because that should have been a breakout hit for her.
She performed this on Solid Gold?
Oh, yes, child. You better look it up, ho. Marilyn McCoo was introducing her ass.
I gotta see that. I don't think I've seen that.
It's on YouTube.
I feel ashamed of myself.
Especially since you love some Solid Gold, ho.
Exactly.
I think we should all meet at a club and perform a reenactment of the "Say You Do" Solid Gold. I'll be Marilyn McCoo. No. No. All right. Anyone else? Say You Do. Louis,
to me,
go ahead, Jeff.
It sounds reminiscent of PYT, her brother's song PYT for the Young Thing. So it has that same vibe. PYT.
Wait, did Marlon produce this?
I don't know.
Say You Do, because I knew that.
No,
Marlon
I think that's
produced a couple of tracks.
Renee and Angela.
Really?
Right.
Okay.
That is right. Oh my God.
I'll be good.
Exactamente.
That Foxy Brown later.
They should have kept it for themselves. That was a hit too.
Wow, I didn't know that.
All right. Anyone else on Say You Do? Jump in.
I think like David, I think it is a great song. And not as a Janet fan, I think the hook is killer. I think she sounds great. Right? There's a rawness and there's an innocence to it, right? Is every note hitting? No, right? But that's not
what we want.
That's not that.
She is serving a bop and a half. She is giving you choreography. That song makes you want to get up and move and eat your steak bagel. It is what it is.
It's funny because I don't remember the song, but I remember the chorus.
Exactly.
So I can hear the chorus over and over in my head, but I cannot remember what exactly the words of the song was.
I think that if it's hard now, maybe for some folks to understand just how large Michael's shadow loomed over Avery Jackson. So, like,
I feel the same way too. I felt like we've got Michael Jackson, and all the money and all the effort and all the attention went to Michael Jackson. But you had Rebe, and you had Janet, and you had Jermaine coming out with music at around the same time, but they never had that shine. It was like, I can only pay attention to Michael, and that's it.
One thing too that I think we haven't mentioned is she actually did 2 songs from this album on her Rock With You tour. Say You Do was one, and she also did Young Love. And Don't Stand a Chance, but I don't remember if that's
Did that tour only last like 2 dates though? So
Jeffrey,
I don't know.
I
saw it on YouTube. So
you sound a little muffled. Have you tried it without the headphones? I don't know how it will sound. Do you have sound without the headphones?
Do I pause? Okay, Jeff fixed his sound. Originally, he sounded like the verses of If.
My apologies.
But now he sounds like the chorus of Escapade. So, is there anybody that knows what Janet's saying in the verses of If? Because all I know is this. You on the rise. I know you on the rise. It's a touch of my thighs.
Mm-hmm.
Louis, I feel like did you have more to say about Say You Do? No? Okay.
Nope. All right, next track.
Okay. So you'll never find a love like mine. I was still on the bagel when it came to this song. And this is another, there's something, okay, let's be dramatic and say like life is hard sometimes, but the greatest joy I ever find is in music. So Janet's one of the artists I go to where some of the songs can pick me up on a shitty day. Some of Madonna's best tracks are like that too. But like a track like Escapade, When I Think of You, All For You.
All right.
All right. Sexhibition, if I'm feeling a little, Demeter Joe.
Hey, it's left Rob for me.
But anyway, this song put me in that, like, it lifted me up like some of Janet's best songs. Her signature vocals were there. I just thought this was another. Every song on this album, for the most part, there were a couple that I didn't love, but I was like, shit, this is really good. So
I didn't like it. To me, it's a skip.
Really?
To me, it's a skip. I'm like, skip.
Hard skip.
I was like,
I like
a skip.
So was it a skip? You know what? We're forgetting to do the Marcus scale.
Oh, that's right.
So Marcus is someone from our Prince podcast. He introduced for every song, would you thumbs up, sideways, or down? So say you do, I give it thumbs up. Oh,
okay.
all right. Okay. You'll never find a love like mine.
Middle.
Oh, that's a down.
Louis, I saw the thumbs up. Support me on this one so I don't feel so alone.
Yeah, I mean, I actually don't know what's not to like because I feel like a lot of melodic house music in the mid 90s sound like this.
Yep.
Right. There's this sweeping orchestra sound, right? There are a lot of strings. It is obviously the hook was what was the most prominent for this song. I imagine that they got a hook and they were like, all right, this is such a great hook. Write whatever for the verses, right? And maybe that's what doesn't carry it over completely for some people. But I love it. I love the sweeping sound of it. It is not like it's a up-tempo song, but it's not a dance song.
It made me wish that guy hadn't ghosted me for 2 weeks now. Anyway. But I feel like you're right, Louis. Like fucking CeCe Peniston was somewhere taking notes.
Oh yes.
All right. Well, any other thoughts on this song? Moving on to the hit of the album, Young Love, which was not one of my favorite songs on the album. I actually like the first two songs more, but the Ring Around the Roses, Pocket Full of Hoses rhyme just always got on my nerves. Like I just never liked that rhyme. But you know,
it's a good jam. You just want to dance to it. It's fun.
That's what I'm saying. Like I'm listening to it. I have it here on this phone, and I'm like, yes, bitch.
I've heard songs with worse lyrics than Young Love, and people are still bopping to them. But
Spanish Lesson by Madonna.
Not Spanish. And I wonder, is she doing? She never does any of these tracks. Like, she's not doing that on the tour, right? Like,
I didn't see it on the set list.
Oh, Janet?
Yeah.
No, she did. The last time she did these songs was like on Rock With You.
Okay, because I know, I remember her doing something like that. And then I know Nukas and the Black, they, on the last big tour they did that I went to, they actually did a couple of songs from their first album that was like one of these albums that nobody really cared or knew about.
Oh yeah.
So that was a surprise. So like I was like, damn, that'd be dope if she like did something like a little medley right quick.
Well, Dave's, you know what? I've been hearing that she's been throwing in little things. I guess the second show in Hollywood was very different from the first. So who knows what
Hollywood, Florida?
Yeah. She did 2 shows in Hollywood. So who knows what we'll get tomorrow. We'll probably get the new single. She already previewed some beats from it. So
what's the new single?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not out yet. We don't know what it is. It's probably still in a crate somewhere for like the last 5 years.
What was that song that she had at the closing credits of the documentary? Like Love to Love something. You know what I'm talking about? She had like a new song. Okay. Young Love. Anyone else have anything to say about the song here? I
love it. That's probably the first time I saw her singing on TV was Young Love. I never, like I said, I didn't have the album till I was later an adult, but that's the song I remember her performing on American Bandstand, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I like it.
All right, this is a terrible thing to say on the podcast, but maybe I'm struggling with the song because I'm watching Surviving R. Kelly. So a song called Young Love, I can't do this one today. Can't do this one.
She was what, 15, 16? How old was she when this album came out?
Who, Aaliyah or Janet?
Janet.
No, I think she was good 17 or 18.
No,
she couldn't.
She was 16 when the album came out.
Let's look. She was born
in 82. In 82, she was born in 66.
Okay,
yeah, she sure was. 16 years old.
Yeah.
Aw.
Like she was serving you Stacey Lattisaw.
Yes, that's something. That and like Denise Williams, those girls. Like, that's what I'm thinking about. Yes,
there was a lot of comparison there.
Okay,
some strong vocals, buddy.
Any other thoughts on Young Love?
No, it's a bop. I'll dance to it.
It's a bop. I like it. Yeah.
Okay. Next is Love in My Best Friend. Isn't
I
that a
love this
ballad?
song.
That's a ballad, right?
Her
I
first ballad.
absolutely love this song. It is corny. It is
Boo.
cheesy.
It is.
It is everything you want in a prom night. It is right up
And
there
my best
with Love
friend.
on a two-way street. It is fun, and it's
No,
probably it is one of the songs that I go back to on this album. I don't know why it is not the best song on the album, but it's cute. It's just cute.
That's the one where I put my car in reverse and like, oh, I'm leaving McDonald's.
I'm gonna need another steak bagel to get through this.
I agree that it's not one of the best songs on the album, not my favorite, but out of the two ballads on there, I would pick that one. It is the typical cheesy ballad, like a filler. To me, it's almost like a precursor to like Let's Wait a While, Anytime, Any Place, but in a cornier version. I don't know if that makes sense, but like it's like that compared to the other ballad. The other ballad sucks to me. Like I don't care for the other ballad, but for this one, it's not my favorite. It's corny, but yeah, it's alright. It's alright.
Louis, anything to say about this ballad here?
I absolutely hate it. I hate her vocal. I think it drags. There's something about the electronic piano that is jarring to the ear. Her vocal, like it, I can't say. It sounds like Ben Part 2.
Oh, it does.
Oh,
Actually.
I could hear that.
I see that. That's a good one.
Okay, Janet Jackson panel. If you had to choose between Love and My Best Friend or one of Janet's like 30 sex ballads that all sounded the same from like 2004.
Well, I would take Love and My Best Friend over the Complete Discipline album. So
I would take this over 20YO.
Oh!
Agreed.
My friend Quentin, do you guys know Quentin Harrison? He writes for Albumism. He swears that 20YO is the best Janet album of all time. I want him to be.
I see some people who will die on that hill.
Okay,
and I'm
that's
like,
a die.
not worth it.
But I will say,
die.
I invited him to this panel too because I love him. And
I do have a friend that had me listen to 20YO all over again because on this concert she is doing
That's
songs.
not your friend.
Oh,
And I have to say that I do like Enjoy, but that's a whole nother topic. I've been bopping to Enjoy.
the only takeaway from 20YO is Kia has a rap and she goes, "Is you hungry?" So whenever me and my friends want to go eat, we're always like, "Is you hungry?" That's like the only takeaway from the whole fucking album. Okay,
that was horrible.
So do we all agree that we would take Love and My Best Friend over some later period things? Okay, moving on. Don't Mess Up This Good Thing.
Ooh, yes.
Thumbs up, right?
Thumbs all the way up. It's like R&B junkie.
Oh, there we go. We finally get an all thumbs up.
Yeah.
It's all for
the funkiest
you.
track on the album. Don't mess up this good thing. Don't mess up. That's like it's right. It reminds me again like Melba Moore's "Love's Coming."
No, this is like, let me tell you, this is very Shaka Khan. Like I could see Shaka Khan do this song and turn it out. Like this was R&B funk.
Yes, it's like very Gap Band. Reminds me of the Gap Band. Like
yes,
that. You know, I love that sound. I love that early '80s Gap.
But
band
again, it's produced by the Silvers, so you get what you get.
Okay.
You're gonna get funky now.
All right. Does anyone else have anything to say about this one?
You know, I agreed. I think it's a great song, right? It's funky. I think that it could be, you know, slight things can be updated and it could be a single today because it also has like this proto like house feel to it, right? Like it is like it kind of reminds me of something that Colonel Abrams would sing, right? It's
yes.
Oh
my God. Yes.
Kind of like pulsating.
Good times, that legend. Good times.
Yeah, I think this is such a great song.
Agree.
This album, I hope this podcast inspires people to re-listen to this album because I think it's just as good as some of the other stuff she's done. These songs are fucking great. And you know what another feel-good Janet song is that I slept on? I don't know if you guys are going to agree, but that fucking... at the time, I'm like, this is trash. Then I went back and listened to it, and I couldn't believe how good it was. The song from Number One's Make Me. That was
that's a bop.
That was a fucking bop.
Cute.
Oh my God, when she gets into that Michael Jackson breakdown.
I know.
That's like...
So I was like, oh. There's a couple of years ago, right? There are a couple of songs.
Like,
I know. Oh, Louis.
I love the rolling of the eyes.
So I fell in love with Make Me and fucking She Wolf by Shakira. I'm like, ooh.
Oh, child.
Because at the time I was like, ooh, this is a mess. But then I
Well,
heard
there
the
you
howling
go.
and stuff.
You said it.
Okay, I'm sorry. I like to ramble a little bit. Forever Young.
Forever yours.
Yours. I'm sorry. My eyesight, I can't see in my old age. Forever Yours. Thumbs up.
I don't remember this one.
for me, it's a skip.
This is not a
ballad. You're such a ballad hater. I live.
Oh wait,
is it a...
this is
one's
the ballad.
better
That's
than-
right. I give it a thumbs down.
This one is better than.
I didn't like the ballads.
You liked it better than the first
better.
one?
This one's better than the other one.
Well, it's not hard to be better than that other one. Jesus.
That's very true.
The only ballad worse than that one is that damn one on Dream Street that we're gonna be talking about in a few minutes. Oh my lord.
Ow.
With Cliff Richards.
The one where it's just like multiplied by 5 equals 17. The equation.
That was the R&B days when they were counting,
Yeah.
and doing their ABCs on the songs.
I guess I'm jumping ahead. Okay, the magic is working.
I like The Magic Is Working. That is my bop.
This is Tina Marie.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, that's Lady T style. I like it. It starts really cute. It gets a little blah for me later on, but I like it. Like it's not my favorite, but I like it. Again, it starts really funky, then gets kind of blah, and then it picks up again.
It's a go get a drinker.
Yeah,
Yes.
Dance floor.
Start bopping and you're like, I'll be right back. 2 drinks,
See,
please.
I got my
I'm
drink
back
during the
from
ballad.
damn.
I got my drink by the ballad, but this song's perfect for me because I only have enough stamina to make it like half the song on the dance floor. Then I'm out of breath. So I'm like, I'm just gonna sit back down.
Well, the good thing is it's 4 minutes or something like that, and most of it is instrumental. I think she probably sings maybe 2-3 minutes of the whole song.
yeah.
All right. Any other thoughts on The Magic Is Working? I don't know what you guys are all gonna think, but Come Give Your Love to Me. I listened to it like 4 times in a row. I was like, Janet, bring in the rock.
That song is so out of place on this album.
But I liked it as the closing track.
No,
my
I
second-
like it. It's just not R&B. I don't know what it is. Is this
I know what
foray
it
into
is.
pop?
It's crazy.
To me, it's my second favorite song on the album. My favorite is "Don't Miss Up This Good Thing." Second favorite is Come Give Your Love to Me." To me, it has that a 1982 rock new wave sound. It sounds
No way.
like the
This is
Romantics.
not R&B. This is pop.
No, it's not R&B at all. It sounds like the Romantics. I hear the secrets that you keep. When you're talking in your sleep.
And think
It
of how
sounds
many.
like that mixed with Burning Up a little bit, like Madonna's Burning Up.
But think of all the R&B artists kind of flirting with rock. You had Donna Summer with The Wanderer, with some
Correct.
rock songs on there.
Prince.
So, even Michael Jackson with Beat It was kind of had floating with the rock thing. So I thought it was very much of the times to kind of like, let's not stay in the pocket. Let's try something. I thought it was a little experimental, and I wasn't expecting that. So by this time I was driving to work, and I think I was supposed to pull in the parking lot, and I drove around the block. I'm like, I need to hear that one more time before I go to work.
Yeah, I like it, and
It's good.
I think it's a good track. Yeah.
Jeff and Louis, do you have any thoughts on this one? I'm curious to see what the panel thinks.
It's forgettable for me.
Oh.
Shade.
Listen, as a fan, you got to serve the tea just like you take it.
Oh,
That's
So-
right, ma'am. Yes.
You know,
We're
it's
all different people here. We're
Yeah.
these
not
are
the same
these
shit.
are important records because if she did not go through this, we would have not gotten Control. We would have not gotten Rhythm Nation. We would have not gotten Black Cat, all those other songs.
Yeah.
So it is very important, and taking into consideration that it was, I mean, she was how old you said? She was 16?
16.
Mhm.
16,
15
so-
when she recorded it.
15. So she's serving up Debbie Gibson kind of stuff here. So I
Mhm.
mean, it just did nothing for me.
See, I feel like if the ballad was a descendant of Let's Wait a While, I feel like this is the descendant of Black
Black
Cat. Yep.
Correct.
It could be. They always
Yeah.
said she's a rocker. She loves her rock music. So I mean,
And I'm going to
It wa-
introduce you guys to somebody really quick. Hold on.
Oh. Is he going to introduce us to the steak bagel?
This is my cat, whose name is Miss Janet. My black cat. I named her Miss Janet. So here she is.
Oh,
Yep, hanging out with me in the podcast. Louis, what do you think? What do you think of this song?
I love it.
Oh, good.
I love it. And, I got to say, and I love Forever Yours, right? Just going to throw that out there. I think it's a pretty ballad. But, it is outside of the cohesiveness of the album, but definitely in concert with, I think, where music was pointing to. Right, so we're coming out like 83, right? Shannon comes and
Oh, yeah.
changes music sonically. So I think that it was on trend for the time.
Mhm.
And it's very youthful, right? It's very youthful dance rock, right? So I don't think it's there's a lot of guitar, but I don't think that it's out of the pop dancey stuff that is in the rest of the album. It's just, it's guitar driven, which could be jarring for some folks.
Yeah. And let's just say that for the newcomers here, there's never a right or wrong answer. It's kind of fun to have different opinions and to kind of well, I'm sure we're all tough bitches here. I'm sure no one's sensitive. But if we all rip on each
No.
other a little bit, it's all out of love. Listen, I had people on my CV Nicks panel that were so sensitive. I shrunk it down. I had 10 people. I shrunk it down to 5. I said, we're just going back to the originals. So if they're watching this, I loved you, but
They're not watching.
I shouldn't have said that. Okay, moving on. Okay, so any other thoughts on the first Janet Jackson before we move on to the second? We'll do the ratings at the end.
She looks so beautiful on the cover,
Yes.
on the photo shoot.
Yeah.
I like the story behind the photo shoot. She basically said she was in the water because she was so ashamed of her body.
Oh,
So it even shows you that even with all the low self-esteem she had and whatnot, she still managed to be cute on the cover. Because it really is a cute album when you look at the pictures.
Mhm.
It is.
well, you know what?
She looks really pretty.
Let's rate it now since it's fresh on our mind. So, gentlemen, we always do a scale of 1 to 10 on the albums. David, let's start with you. Janet Jackson's first album, scale of 1 to 10.
An 8.
Oh, Jeff X,
I agree, an 8.
Jeffrey,
I give it a 5.
Louis,
I'd give it a 7.
and I think that I'm gonna give it. Oh shit! You know what? I'm gonna give it a 7.5, between 7 and 8. I think it's. I think it's. I don't think there's much filler. I think you can listen to it from beginning to end, and it's an enjoy. You know what? I'm going up to 8. We're gonna give it an 8. You can listen to it from beginning to end. That I love Janet, but her albums tended to get long with a lot of skips eventually for me. So the thing I like about this album, and even through Control, is it's really tight. There's no skips. You can just play it from beginning to end. And
Mhm.
what if she came out with a deluxe edition of this album and added some interludes in?
Unreleased tracks, imagine.
what would interludes on the debut Janet Jackson album sound like?
Her giggling.
Her giggling. Dad, I don't want to record that track. Are you recording? Don't make me do that ballad. It sucks.
I will say she did a good job with hiding these albums, because if you're not a true fan, you probably wouldn't even know they existed.
Right? Like
yeah.
She came out with Control like it was her debut.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes, the babies still call that a debut, and I'm like, girl.
It's not.
He buried those so far in. You wouldn't even
But then,
know.
the thing is, like, I'm happy that we're reviewing this, and I'll probably post this everywhere, because the thing is, people really should go back to these two albums.
Yep.
Because even if, you scored a 5 or a 4 or anything less, some of this album and the next album, they had a couple of good songs on there that is worthy of being in Janet's, discography.
Yeah.
So do y'all want to take a little break before we go into Dream Seat, or go right into it? How's everyone feeling?
Anybody need snacks, drinks, bathroom breaks? Yeah.
All right. So between 1982 and 1984, everyone discovered the drum machine and the synthesizer. So before the podcast started, I summed up Dream Street in the following way. I said Dream Street felt to me like the side B tracks pushed at the end of the Pointer Sisters Breakout album. Like, you have like the big hits on side 1, but then you have like Telegraph My Love and Operator, like those 80s songs that sound like they're on some soundtrack to a movie you never saw. And that's how I felt about Dream Street. But I'm interested to see what the panel thought. So we already talked about how we discovered these albums. So let's look at the cover first. So we have Janet on a moped, right?
Vespa.
A Vespa, okay.
That's what it looks like.
I don't know what, like I see
and a mullet.
Yeah, I said a mullet.
She is serving that Melissa Morgan "Do Me Baby" bullet.
Yeah, she is.
Not Melissa Morgan.
So the album opens with a much different sound than we heard on the first album. Janet's dad was still in control. Now, I don't know how everyone else felt, but I felt like some of her performances on the first album were very spirited. And I feel like she was into it. But I felt on this album, I could definitely feel like she was phoning it in a little bit more. But I don't know how everyone else feels. So let's go into the track by track. Don't Stand Another Chance. Thoughts? And Jeff, it sounded like you had a thought, so don't let me interrupt you. What were you thinking?
I'm surprised that Giorgio Moroder is one of the bigger producers on this album.
Yes, he is.
So is Jesse Johnson, right, from the time?
But that would be intricate for other time members to come through.
Jesse Johnson also produced a couple really great songs on Sue Ann's album. I'm a big Sue Ann fan, which no one else even heard of her. But Jesse Johnson was great. Let me look at the credits here. So Giorgio Moroder produced some of these songs?
He produced a good bit of them, actually.
Let me take a look.
He produced Dream Street.
Marlon Jackson wrote the first song. Yeah, Jesse Johnson did Fast Girls.
That's about.
Oh, I see Moroder and Balat, or however you say his name.
Moroder, you're good.
Interesting. All right, so Don't Stand Another Chance. What do y'all think of this song? I give it sideways. I didn't love it and I didn't hate it.
Same, sideways for me. It's got a little Prince vibe, and it's got a kind of like when Vanity went solo.
Oh my God, Wild Animal. This is Wild fucking Animal.
Yeah, like that.
But on key.
Oh, but on key. But without Pretty Mess, though. Like, this Wild Animal was off key, but, I think what it didn't have in key, it had in spirit.
Such a pretty mess.
He made
such a pretty mess on my
dress. And what about that opening track, Flipping Out? We're just talking about vampires.
I'm
into my vampire boudoir.
Old Town spent money on that. No,
Me and my friend
Real
Oki would
quick.
always laugh because they're like, "Ooh, we scored Vanity." Then when she played back the Wild Animal album, the executives must have been like, "Ooh,
Real quick. Can you pause the recording?
Yes.
So yes, the first song is a little bit like an outtake from Vanity Six's Vanity's solo Wild Animal album, but the vocals are on key. I just thought it was kind of dated and not in the way I love. It just sounded like, remember in the 80s how there was like 8,000 movie soundtracks that always had like the one hit single, then like 7 other songs that were like total filler garbage. That's how I felt about a lot of the songs on Dream Street, that they're like, Jeff X. Oh, you're on mute.
Unmute yourself, man.
You're still on mute, buddy.
Pero él sigue. Cabrón.
I'm still on mic, child.
I hit the. Oh well.
Vieja.
No,
Oh, there you
I was
go.
saying Louis. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay, I don't know what happened. I was just saying that that I agree with you. That it's like a lot of like it's mostly like that soundtrack filler vibe. That's album, most of it.
Oh my God. If you're going to talk about soundtrack filler vibe, the next song.
I feel like maybe these were all the songs that Donna Summer did not want to sing.
Yeah.
From Georgia, Vermont.
She was like, "No, I'm not singing this. I'm not singing this." And
But
fast
she works hard for the money. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Donna's like,
More
I
like-
work too hard for the money, and these cats are gonna have claws. So
fast girls more like bad girls. So
okay, 2 to the power of love. I give it a thumbs down.
Oh, like let me tell you, I love me some Cliff Richard singing with Olivia Newton-John. This was not it for them.
No, he's like 20 years older than her. Like
Exactly.
it was weird.
And she's like, okay, she is currently 17, 18. So
What I did like about the Janet documentary is that we finally got to see some like behind the scene during the photo shoot of this album.
Right, that was cool.
That was cool. That was cool. Yeah.
I was not
But
a big
that's
fan
all-
of the documentary. Yeah, I give the song a thumbs down. Does anybody have anything to say about this song?
it's so bad.
Somebody
like a bad country.
Somebody trash it for fun. So if someone hasn't discovered these albums, we can give them something to take away. The metaphors were terrible.
Woman on Fame with Jesse.
Oh, she did?
Yeah, in one of the episodes. I think it might be one of the first episodes she's on, because I think also it's part of the introduction of her character. And they're like in the cafeteria. That pairing makes sense because they're closer to age. I never got the Cliff Richard pairing because he wasn't all that huge in the States.
yeah,
Right.
he's huge in England, but he was like,
I'm not sure if they were going for some international appeal, but it's so odd. It is like
Yes.
pairing Madonna with Julio Iglesias. Like it is just.
But if you look at Janet doesn't really do a lot of like collaborations. She does a lot of rap artists, but I think Luther Vandross was the one that she had that duet with. Other than this, thinking about it now.
Kind of true, yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't do a lot of. I mean, maybe in her remix she'll have like Blackstreet or something, but I don't think there's a song that stands out where she's other than Michael Jackson. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. Maybe she saw something in this song and said, "I ain't doing that again."
Good choice, girl. Good choice. I feel like the lyrics are just so, like, sometimes 80s cheesy is good. What comes to mind is like Johnny's Got the Inside Moves from Tiffany's first album. Pure cheese, but I fucking love it. But this song here, it's not even so bad it's good. It's just so bad it's bad, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a bad version of Island in the Stream. It's so bad.
Yeah.
Because it has a country sound to it. If you really listen to it, it almost sounds like a folky country. But it's
Kenny and Dolly are like, oh, we're gonna pass on that one.
yeah.
All right, track 3, Pretty Boy.
I like it. It sounds like Vanity's Undress.
Oh, can you kiss me?
Yeah, just so
Baby, can you kiss?
all your songs are about vanity.
Baby, Undress. It just has the undress beat, and then I think that's the one that's by Jesse Johnson, right?
Let me look.
Yeah.
And Jesse Johnson's part of the Prince camp, so
and
now
Jesse Johnson produced Undress. Did you know that?
Oh, so he did, right?
Yeah, yeah, I think he did. I had to look, but I think so.
There you go. If that's the truth, then that's if it was Jesse, then then that makes sense. Because she was on Motown at that time.
Somebody talk while I look this up. Any other thoughts on Pretty Boy?
It's 6 minutes. It's 6 and 32 minutes. Like, wow, that's a long song.
That is not a long song. Y'all are up in like you people just want like 2-3 minutes. I need 6 to 8 minutes to really get into
on a club version. Yeah, you can go up to about 12 minutes, but this is like on a normal record.
I need 6 minutes or more.
I need 6 minutes or more.
You need the 12-inch version.
I was like, I need.
But if it was is it even a really good song to be that long?
I'll take 6 minutes with a Pretty Boy.
It's not a good song. It's decent. It's not my favorite.
Look at this shit. Undress, produced by Jesse Johnson. So really good ear there. Yep.
So Vanity didn't want to do this song, basically.
Yeah.
Send them all to Janet. She needs a hit or two.
Oh my God.
Joe, what's interesting though is how Janet worked with someone from the time on this album. Then she moved on to Jam and Lewis and Monty Moore on the next album. So the time had such a big part in Janet's career.
That's what I said. He probably went back to them and was like, I think there's something special about her.
Mm-hmm.
I remember they had to ask her all this permission or something, and I think he was like, if I remember correctly, it was something along the lines of, "I'll let you work with my daughter, but I don't want her sounding like no fucking Prince."
Yeah.
So and then that was it. They were like, and then that's when she broke away. We all know that. But they got fired. Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis are from the Prince camp. They got fired from Prince. Prince fired them because they were working with other artists. And
Midnight Star or Atlantic Star that they worked with?
Atlantic Star, Midnight Star, one of those groups. And I know when they were working with Sherelle and all that, like he got pissed. And then real quick is that I just saw the podcast Apollonia did with Jill Jones.
Oh yeah.
So Jill, that's your girl, that's your friend.
That's my girl.
That's your personal friend. Jill Jones is the original girl of Paisley Park of Prince's camp. She saw everything from the jump. And Jill Jones said, she was like, if Prince hadn't been such a cutthroat jerk to Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis and to Jesse Johnson, not Jesse Johnson, and to
all of them, honestly.
What's the other one? Who did Andre Simone.
Andre Simone did all the Jody Watley.
She was like, we would have had Janet and Jody Watley would have been part of Paisley Park. They would have been part of the Prince camp. They would have officially been part of the Prince camp. But, he treated people certain ways, and they were like, fuck you too. So they went off and they did their own thing, and they did it better. So.
And just a little cross promotion. One of our most legendary podcasts is when Jill Jones came on and talked about her debut album with us, track by track. That was a legendary moment.
I love that.
Yep.
I love Jill Jones. She's got stories.
She has got stories.
Everybody from I didn't know she did backup vocals for Tina Marie when she was a kid. That's crazy.
Yeah. Tina Marie lived with, because Jill's mom was Tina's manager. Jeff, I feel like Jeffrey, I feel like I cut you off.
Oh no. I was just thinking, I was like, I'm so mad that Jody Watley is not bigger than what she.
I love fucking Jody.
There's one picture of Jody Watley that always stays in my head, and it's when you watch the Don't Want Me video, and there's a side profile of her with the big hair and that huge and the cat eyes, and I'm like, this bitch is beautiful. Like, and the voice. Why are you not bigger than what you are? I mean, Jodie Watley comes from Shalimar, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's
The last time I visited Jeff X in Orlando, remember I was playing you her Midnight Lounge and Saturday Night Experience album? She has some great house albums.
Underrated record by all means.
Yeah.
I love that album. But I will say, I think X did. I can't remember the name of the album. The one that has When a Man Loves a Woman. I absolutely love that album. I think it's called Ecstasy.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Affection was the one after.
Because she was really kind of the pioneer for the 90s that was doing that kind of jazz meets the poetic sound kind of thing. But anyway, that's another topic.
And then she had that album Flower with the song that she wrote for Destiny's Child, or was it? And there's this really gorgeous song about being 16. Oh, I love Jodie. I'm sorry. Back to Janet.
I mean, they hold hands. They hold hands. They look. I mean, they were wearing big hoops in the area in the 80s. So.
Dream Street is so mediocre. We can't help but talk about Jodie Watley. Okay.
Stop.
Dream Street. Okay. Great hook on the song. It's been in my head all day. Dream Street. I give it a thumbs up. Just
we got the signature shimmy that she likes to do at the beginning of her career with this video.
Like many 80s songs, it was topical. It was talking about the topics. This is probably maybe my favorite song on the album.
It's probably the only good song on the album.
Louis, I'm curious your opinion of the song Dream Street.
I have to be honest. I like it because of how I was introduced to it. Right. This album is trash for me. Like I can't. It sounds dated for the time.
Right.
To think this came out after Let the Music Play and Give Me Tonight, and like it's so wild that like the mechanics, everything about it sounds so dated. It doesn't even sound like 1984. It sounds like I can see why she phoned it in. It's still 1982. So like I like Dream Street because I associated with the music video that was lifted from Fame. Because they also weren't even, this is also at the height of, or the beginning of the introduction of music video.
Right. That's
not part of the promotion of this album. Even Motown knew to do that with Vanity, right? Calling her this audio visual 1984. Like it's so, there's nothing redeemable about this album. And it's so bad that I do love Dream Street. But I had to see the music video, it is a cheesy song because it's about like believing in your dreams, I think. Right? Like dum 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 dum. The bass line is like dum 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 dum. Yeah, I like it because in relation to the other songs on this album, but it's not one of my favorite Janet songs.
Just to keep with the Shannon references, I feel like she was hoping for a Let the Music Play, and she couldn't even get a fucking Love Goes All the Way out of this.
I don't think she was all in this record, to be honest with you. I think she was just like, give me all the leftovers that Donna Summers did not sing. I'm gonna sing the shit out of this crap, and then I'm gonna go do Control.
Is this around the time she was married to this
secretly?
Well, you're right. She was gonna get married secretly.
I'm gonna get married secretly, then force them to give me control.
Was this around the time they got married?
Yep.
Yeah. It's just.
I feel like it's her foray into pop music. They really didn't know what to do with her, so you could tell that there's some, like, okay, this song and the next song, super pop, super what was out at the time.
Communication.
Yeah. Do you know what album I put this next to? Not even Pointer Sisters album. I put this next to Anita Pointer's fucking solo album. That was so. What was the name of that album? Love for What It Is or something like that.
Oh, I don't even know what that is. That's bad.
It was so. It was so like filler 80s synthesizer bad. Sorry, Anita. Rest in peace.
I was like, she just died, y'all. Damn.
You know, I can remember the video very, very vaguely, but I think she kind of smiled in the video, and I think that's what makes, you know, if Janet smiles in a video, then you kind of got to know that it's a good little hit for her.
Mm.
But
And not only that, but she was rocking that short hair so good.
and she was a little chunky. She was cute. Yeah.
There it is. I need
Oh
a
my.
pointer.
And there it went.
And there it went.
That 80s hair.
Yeah.
All right. Well, any other thoughts on Dream Street, the song? Next, Communication, which of course starts off with some bad 80s sound effect.
It did not
Now,
communicate.
this is like something the Pointer Sisters said no to.
I know they're like, we already have Telegraph Your Love and Operator. We don't need Communication.
It sounds like Neutron Dance to me a little bit.
That's what I'm saying.
Without the
Yeah,
hook,
that-
though.
I think
Now-
David Guetta should take this album, strip it, and just make a whole bunch of little remixes left and right. It might.
You know
sound-
what? He probably could do it. And turn
It probably would hold up a lot better. And the fun part is nobody even knows this album exists, so nobody will even know it's her singing.
It's like Neutron Dance without Ruth. Like,
Wait, what 80s film is this? Is this Short Circuit? What 80s film would this song fit for?
it would have been like,
It would be like something in between. The new guy just started working and they have this huge IBM thing and everyone breaks out into a dance to the song.
I feel like this would have been like a soundtrack song on Beverly Hills Cop 3.
Facts.
Yeah.
What's crazy
Louis,
is-
I don't know which is Louis. Is it Louis or which one of you guys was looking at the credits? Did Giorgio Moroder do that too?
He did
Yes.
this one.
He did. And the
Oh.
crazy part is Dream Street has 4 singles. They released 4 singles off of this album.
Once
I feel
every
like-
month and nothing was sticking. I looked at the Wikipedia and I was like, wait, how do you release a single in September, then October, and November, and December? You don't let nothing grow.
I feel like
Yeah.
Dream Street in
Like, no.
84 is kind of like my sex life in 2023. Nothing.
If
Oh my-
if Janet can say something, she has an album with Giorgio Moroder, and they're all horrible songs.
I feel like not only did Donna Summer pass on these songs, Irene Cara did too. She's like, no, I'm
Oh.
good.
But you know, it makes sense because when you do listen to this album or you heard it, you're like, oh yeah, I could totally see Donna Summer singing this song. But
But
I
Donna,
mean-
I don't think so, because Donna wrote all her own lyrics and melodies. And she had a really good knack for like a really good hook and a good lyric. I feel like these are weak. Too weak for Donna, in my opinion.
and that's why she
But this is
Yeah.
basic as fuck. Basic as fuck. The lyrics. You can't do. I'm like, girl, communication. Boom, boom. I'm like, girl, who is singing about this shit? Am I lying?
It sounds like it also sounds like a throwaway song from the Misfits from Gem.
Oh, it does!
oh shit, you're right.
They would never.
Actually, every last one song, the title sounds
These
like
two sound.
it is
All the
Gem.
Dream Street sounds like Gem songs.
I mean, wow. Just when you thought 20YO was a bad album.
Jeff, remember when I was obsessed with like the Misfits like background singing parts?
Yes. You would hit me up every time sending me little audio clips.
What's that one song that I love by them?
I don't know, there's a lot.
Where they're in the jungle and they like get a disease.
Welcome to the jungle.
No, not that one. It takes a lot.
It takes a lot. Yeah.
Okay. Back to Janet. Fast Girls, produced by Jesse Johnson.
This is a bop.
It is.
I don't
the
know. I love it. I think it's just
I give it
like,
a sideways.
I know I'm giving it a whole up because I think it was cute as fuck, and I don't know. It makes me want to dance.
It's funky, but
I want to be one of these hookers, these fast girls. Let's do this.
it's got it's got again like a little Prince vibe for me, but it doesn't cut it for me. Like to me, it's a skip.
Mm.
I feel like Louis just done with this album. He's like, I'll catch you guys on Control. Any other thoughts on Fast Girls? I used to want to be a fast girl. Now I'm just fast to get my coffee and donut in the morning.
Exactly.
She
Okay.
was still in church when she sang that.
What'd you say?
She was probably still in church when she sang that.
All right. Hold Back the Tears. Another
Again,
Giorgio Moroder song.
It's just another like what inspirational movie did this song come from?
Right.
Because it's just like it's written like that. Like that's the moment that the protagonist it finds the strength to keep living or some shit like that, and you're hearing this music in the background.
It was
It's
the
just
B-side for Enough Is Enough.
I'm like, did I lose this in Mannequin? Where in Mannequin was this song?
This would have been from Mannequin. Oh God.
Louis, you were about to say something. What were you gonna say, Louis? I looked like you were gonna say something.
Yes, please.
I think David hit on the nail. It does sound very soundtracky. I just don't know what. There's nothing cohesive about this album, and the fact that she worked with very minimal producers, right? It's not like every song has a different producer, and still they're not cohesive. All the Giorgio songs are not cohesive with the Giorgio songs. They're all horrible, right? You know what I mean? And like they're equivalent to that 1984, 1985 movie that Irene Cara was in.
DC Cab?
No.
Barco?
She's on the Run with Tatum O'Neal, I think.
We're all like, oh, we don't even.
It is a horrible film. It is.
Wasn't it DC Cap? No.
No, it is. Oh my God! How can it's on Tubi?
Yeah, that they're like both running in their heels in the streets and shit. Like,
yeah, they're mistaken for two other.
Yes, and they're like running around New York or something, or LA.
Yeah, and Tatum O'Neal spends, more than enough time saying the N-word in the film.
Oh wow!
But yeah, I'm deflecting because I have nothing nice to say about this song. and to think like all the things that are happening at that time, where like, AIDS is beginning its onslaught. Like the world, Reagan is in office, right? We're in the Cold War. All this shit is happening, and this is the best shit you can do at what was presenting at the end of the world.
Right.
So what is your take on this album?
So the world was like literally 2 minutes from ending, and this is what you spent your time recording.
We have to forgive her. She, this record was just, I don't think she really wanted to do it.
I think what redeems it is what she did next.
Yeah, no, I think she was bullied into this record.
Yep.
She said, I'm going to have the long con because I'm going to make it even worse than it is.
She had Daddy Joseph sitting there, and he said, you're going to do all of Donna Summer's B-sides that she did not want to do, and the Pointer Sisters, and you're going to have a good time. And he's like, okay, whatever.
What if there's a chance that Janet sabotaged it on purpose?
Well, she didn't even.
Without a doubt, she did. Without a doubt, she did. Because she doesn't even sound present.
And to think about it, if you guys said it was around the same time that she did Fame, she didn't even last long on Fame either. Like, she was there for a couple of episodes before she quit. So this was just like, I'm done.
But she was busy. She had how many seasons did she do with Different Strokes?
I think Fame was after Different Strokes. Was she doing them both at the same time?
I think she was doing both at the same time.
But Different Strokes started first, though.
Yeah, of course. But I think around this time they were both doing it. She was doing both shit and trying to supposedly have a singing career.
So I got a little surprised when I pulled out my Dream Street CD. I found a little CDR that has the two B-sides, Rock and Roll and Start Anew. Has anyone heard those before? Don't do it. Do it. Okay. Moving on. All My Love to You.
Wait, what track?
I do like this.
thumbs up.
What track is this?
It-
Number.
It's
8.
definitely in the spirit of that Michael Jackson song.
Want
Somebody,
to be starting something?
yes, it is very like the same cadence, right? It's the same kind of like, and while they do repeat the hook 8 million times at the end because they're like, we don't have anything else to do here, so just keep bouncing the track. It is the best song on the album. Like,
Did Marlon Jackson write it?
Yes.
2 thumbs up. Oh my
And-
God, this
And it
bop.
goes on for almost 6 minutes.
And it can go for 8.
I mean, it probably would have been perfect
this
at 4.
song. It's so good. It's so like, this is classic Janet. It just makes you want to get up and move.
Jeff, was it Hold Back the Tears that you said would be a Misfit song?
It was track number 5. The Neutron Dance.
Oh, Communication? Okay.
Communication.
You know what? The chorus of Hold Back the Tears just went in my head, and I decided I liked it more than I said. Hold back the tears. Like, it's that rock one, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. But I'm sorry.
Rock.
We're on All My Love to You. I don't have anything to add. I'm with Louis on this album.
It's so bad.
Okay. A song that could have been written about a group of people trying to discuss the Dream Street album. If It Takes All Night.
This is another bop. She ended this album very well. I know it was a train crash to begin, but these 2 last songs are really, really good.
I'd say
In
the
my
3 last songs, because I liked Hold Back the Tears better than you guys did.
Agreed. They get this plane crashed on the side of the mountains, but the girl survived.
Yeah, she survived.
I'm so
She
glad.
was like, her assistant died, but she survived.
There was a third B-side called French Blue also, which I've never heard. I'll have to look that up after the podcast.
Oh, I'm gonna have to look that up. This is new to me.
Is that
Wow.
like a praise song? Because that sounds like something he would have wrote.
It is
I
produced by Jesse Johnson.
French Blue. You know, he always had these weird titles that made no sense.
Wait,
Until
so
I find
Jesse-
the righteous one. French Blue.
Red computer. Yeah. What was it you said, Louis? You said
I
something?
think French Blue is a medley of Fast Girls and something else, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay.
I could be wrong, but I think it's a medley of, because it was on the international version of what the fuck was that greatest hits called?
Number ones? Design
No.
of a Decade?
Design of a Decade.
Okay.
What?
Wow.
Wow.
Well,
That was definitely not the design.
Yeah.
Not the and it was not part of that decade. Well,
That record pissed me off too, because I'm like, Design of a Decade, man. You only put 1 Janet song on there?
But wouldn't the record label only let her do 1 song? I didn't
no,
only let her.
because the record label wasn't allowing that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Well, fuck
Because
them.
she was on
Done it.
because Janet is on Virgin, if I'm correct, and the other album is on Mercury
She was.
or
No, it was
A&M.
on A&M.
A&M. A&M. Yeah.
I always sat there and I was like, meanwhile, Whoops Now comes out on one of the versions of that. And I'm like, okay, you missed out all the other ones, but you put Whoops Now, which is like a B-side hidden track on Janet.
Yeah, I never needed Whoops Now to come back.
No.
That was a cute song.
Okay, if you guys had to pick between Whoops Now and Dream Street, what would you pick?
Whoops Now.
Whoops now.
Oops now.
All right. We did it. We have officially launched the Janet Jackson Phonogenics series. Jeffrey and Louis, I hope you guys come back because I really enjoyed you being on the panel.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Oh,
Jeffrey.
yes. I loved everything. We have a great panel, and our friend Sharon may join us, who we
Oh,
love.
good times.
But what does everyone give Dream Street on a scale of 1 to 10? Louis, let's start with you this time.
You know, I know I've been hard on this album. That's because we're talking in the context of the Janet universe.
Right.
right? Like I'm not comparing it to other albums. I'm comparing it. We're talking about it within her legacy. I just want to put it out there, like it's like give the context of what my critique is coming from. And because of that, it adds for me no artistic. We could go from Janet to Control, and like if Dream Sheet never came out, I don't think that I think we would still get Control if Dream Sheet never happened, right? I think artistically, right? So with that, I give this album a 2.
Ooh, David.
And again, because it is the sound and it just sucks.
I'll give this a Madam X.
Oh, that's what I said in the Madonna podcast.
I'll give this album. I'm gonna be generous, and I'll give this album a 4. Because there's a couple of bops there.
On a scale of Madam X to 10,
are really, really good.
Before we move on, David, just so you know, someone recently commented on our Madam X podcast and said, "Are you guys sure you're fans? Because this was not enjoyable to listen to at all."
Madonna did a American Life Part 2 with that one. I don't know what she was smoking.
Jeffrey, what do you rate Dream Street?
Oh, I gave the first one a 5 because some of the songs are actually listenable. Today, you could still bop to them.
Mm-hmm.
Dream Street is just not. End of the day, this is probably her worst album ever. I don't think she was committed to it. I don't think she even wants to talk about it. She kind of skipped over it in her documentary like it never even existed. And I'm going to have to hit it hard because you have such great artistry behind this record and you still made they made a crappy record, not just her. So I agree with the 2. I don't think this is a good album at all. If I had bought this at Sam Goody, I would have returned it. And I would have bought my money back.
And I probably would have come after you and bought the used copy just to complete my damn collection.
Jeff X, is that a track?
Facts.
Jeff X, Dream Street.
I agree with the boys. I give it I'm up there. I was like teetering between 2 and 3. So I'm up there. Yeah, I would say a 2. Because the only thing that I like about it is those 2 tracks. And that's it. And then the rest of it is trash for me. So I don't care for it.
Jeffrey made a good point. You have Giorgio Moroder.
Exactly.
Some of the most legendary albums of some of the best music of all time ever written.
Mm-hmm.
He did with Donna Summer. You have Jesse Johnson, who did such great tracks with Sue Ann. His solo albums are great. Jesse Johnson had some great.
He's a sick producer. Remember Tamara and the Scene?
Yeah, I have that.
Yeah,
I have that CD.
Tamara and the Scene was amazing, and then his stuff, like you said, and Baby Let's Kiss. Like he's got some
Crazy with Sly Stone. Love Struck with Sue Ann. And then,
well, what if you think that Joe had an effect where he didn't want
without a doubt
these producers to shine, really
shine?
Because the thing is, like, you wouldn't believe that they are serving this type of trash. You know what I mean?
And not to mention,
I want mediocre. Mediocre is what I want. To bring the best mediocre track. Because I also think that, because just the way, Michael Jackson got played, and like Michael and Lionel Richie got played on pop radio, but a lot of Black artists were shunned. So this album gives me very do not.
I want to try.
Right? And I think, David, you said this earlier, this is her foray into pop.
Right.
So it's clear that Joe was like, do not go too funky. We're going pop. We need her at Top 40 radio. And Top 40 radio is still resistant, at least during the time they're making this album, to Black funky music.
You're right, and I think you have two of the top producers of that time, Giorgio Moroder, and you got Jesse Johnson from the Prince camp. These are 2 top dogs who are making the top hits at that time.
Right.
But I'm sure, David, you have a point, and Louis too, is that he was probably so controlling that they were. I'm sure, knowing these guys, they were like, but let us try this with her. Let us do this with her. Like, we got this track and let us put the lyrics like this. And he was probably like, no, 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 no. And he wants to keep her safe, like in a safe spot. Like, that's my baby girl. Like, let's keep her safe and coddled in a little bubble. And she was trying to break out. Like, daddy, let us do this. Let the guys do what they do best. And he was probably like, nope, 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 nope. And then we got the end result, because I know those guys, I'm sure, are not happy about that album either, considering their long line of work.
I could be wrong, but I feel like there's a Jesse Johnson Greatest Hits album where he does his own version of Fast Girls. I could be wrong, and I could look it up, but I'm too lazy.
I think he does have I
think so.
There is a Fast Girls of his, I think. Yeah, you're right. I think you're right, yeah.
So not only do we have great producers, but this is also fucking Janet Demita Joe Jackson coming out with a crappy album. I'm with you guys. I give it a 2. An 8 for the first album, a 2 for the second. And I'm just going to warn everybody, we're about to go into a bunch of fucking 10s in the next few months. I love fucking Janet. So, well.
Oh my God. Like, I don't remember. Like I'll always tell people, when you buy a Janet Jackson album, there's at least 7 hits. 7 fucking hits. And there's some album tracks that should have been fucking released.
Throb.
Mm-hmm. Throb. I love Throb.
Yep.
Throb didn't get released though.
Oh, did it?
Wasn't it in the UK or something?
No, it's the B side.
It was on the B side
of Anytime, Any Place, and the On and On. It's from.
No, that's right.
Good Morales gave it the Bad Yard Club treatment, where it was even more darker than what it was on her album. So yeah, Throb had a good release.
Yeah, Throb is a good house track.
It's a house classic.
I performed it in drag.
I listened to at the time I listened to Throb more than I listened to Erotica. Like
Throb,
there's a Madonna version of Throb.
Madonna
I've
has
seen the light, and I'm dying to hear it.
And
what was that?
Has Throb, and there's one thing about Throb that lives on. When it breaks and you hear that that kind of
like that.
Yeah, that is timeless house music.
Yeah,
it is classic house.
I will bring it.
Only her and Madonna were putting it out. None of these divas.
And Kathy Dennis, bitch. Don't leave out Kathy Dennis.
Oh, girl, Kathy Dennis was done by the time this album came out. She was relegated to songwriting. She was done by 92. This is 94.
Yeah. And she didn't even really sing on the song. Like, Janet was doing like a quick little melody, and there was that here we go.
And then she busts out her vocals. And she's like, I'm done. I've already pissed on this record. It's gonna be a hit. Let's go.
It
sounds like we're gonna have a lot of fun and a lot to talk about in the next 8 months or whatever. So the third third Tuesday of every month. But if anyone can't make it, we can adjust the dates, of course, because I'd love to share Janet Jackson with all my friends here. So
yes. I can't wait. Control. We're getting to the meat and potatoes now.
We're going to get to the meat and potatoes. We're going to go to Minneapolis and hang out with Jam and Lewis. And thank you all so much. I love meeting my new Janet friends. And it's good to see the old classic bitches in the house. Thank you for making time for Phonogenics. And I will see you all next month.
Awesome.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Don't hang up.